Turning now to politics, all eyes on the special counsel as the country awaits a likely third criminal indictment for former President Donald Trump. Joining us to discuss this and more is Isaac Hale, assistant professor of politics at Occidental College. Good morning, Professor. Thanks for being with us today.
Good morning, Giselle.
So it seems to be, from most accounts, a matter of not when, but if the former president will be indicted for allegedly attempting to overthrow the 2020 election. He could have as many as 5 trials next year, all while campaigning to be a re-elected president. Unprecedented. We've almost become numb to these indictments. Can you put this into constitute the magnitude of this?
Yeah, as you say, it is unprecedented. Now, we have, in fact, had presidential candidates run for president from jail before, so including, during World War I, socialist candidate Eugene V. Debs ran for president from jail for his opposition to U.S. policy in that war. But the scope of this investigation with a candidate, the former president from one of the 2 major political parties, is really unprecedented. And I think the big question mark that's hanging over this is, will Republican voters change their minds about supporting Donald Trump in the primary, given all of these investigations? And so far, we haven't seen any sign that's happening.
In fact, quite the opposite. He leads by as much as 30% in the polls and is fundraising off of every indictment. We've seen the likely 3 charges that people are expecting to come from this indictment, which includes fraud, witness tampering, and also there's a unique offense called conspiracy against rights. This was supposedly created to combat the Ku Klux Klan back in the day. What do you make of this charge, and could it be the most perilous for the former president?
Well, it's hard to say, and we don't really know if this is a charge that's even going to be made. As you said, it's coming from a different time. There are references in the statute that this charge would be coming from about interference on the highway, like highway robbery. So it's not really clear that this is something they're going to charge him with. It could be quite serious if they do. But I think of the major cases we're looking at, I think we know the least about the January 6th investigation and what exactly the special counsel and federal investigators are planning to charge President Trump with, especially because, unlike some of these other cases, it's a muddier question about which of these actions were taken in his capacity in the office of president.
Right, and what clashes with free speech and assembly. All right, the special counsel, Jack Smith, receiving a new trove of materials from the Giuliani team that allegedly show Trump trying to manufacture fraud in the 2020 election. This as neither Giuliani nor Mark Meadows, his former chief of staff, have received indictments or target letters. What does that tell you? And does this suggest they have flipped?
I think we really don't know what exactly has happened, but it is certainly interesting that they have not received target letters or have announced they've received target letters. It could mean they're cooperating with investigators, but honestly, we won't know until more is revealed from investigators.
But yeah, but obviously, if they did flip and these new documents, how perilous for the president? Do you think he's concerned about this and his team?
I think it's potentially quite perilous. I think another issue that I think is potentially quite perilous that I think we're not talking about as much right now is the investigation going on in Fulton County, Georgia, related to Trump's conduct in the 2020 election with the Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, there. And the charges there are potentially quite serious, and those could be coming out soon as well. Trump on tape was asking the Secretary of State to find him 12,000 votes in order to flip the state in the 2020 election.
Right. So let me ask you a legal question that you kind of referenced earlier. If the former president were to be convicted, but also reelected, could he pardon himself? Could he run the country from jail?
I think, yes, he could pardon himself, but it's unprecedented. We really don't know what would happen in that case. Again, we've seen presidential candidates run for president from jail before, not a Republican or a Democrat, but it has happened. And I think we don't exactly know what happened. And I think the big question mark is if Trump is found guilty on some of these serious charges in the middle of 2023, how does that play out at the RNC, at the Republican nominating convention? Is this an issue for Trump's nomination? Does the party even have the capacity to stop him if he becomes politically toxic as a result of these investigations?
Yeah, it may work in the primaries, but not so much, the polls say right now in the general, but we're a long way away. I do want to shift over to the House. After conversations with the former president, Speaker McCarthy says he's not only looking to expunge Trump's 2 impeachments, but also to begin impeachment hearings against President Biden because of his son Hunter. But there's been no evidence presented linking the president to his son's potential or alleged crimes. So what do you make of this politicization of Congress, especially when it comes to impeachment?
Well, I think politicization of Congress is kind of a repeat phrase at this point. Congress is an intrinsically very political body, but as you're absolutely right that the tool of impeachment is becoming increasingly political. I mean, we can think back to the Clinton impeachment and how there was much more bipartisan disarray on the Clinton impeachment, but that's not the case that we've seen in the Trump impeachments. And now we're certainly seeing that the threat of impeachment is being used as a tool by Republicans against President Joe Biden. And I think, honestly, we should expect from now on that impeachment is a much more frequent tool as Congress continues to polarize, as the parties continue to pull apart from each other ideologically.
We live in very, very unprecedented times, don't we? Isaac Hale, Assistant Professor of Politics at Occidental College, thank you so much for lending us your really important expertise. We appreciate you.
Thank you.